When people go missing, we always imagine 1,000 potential fates for them. Most of us never consider that maybe those fates aren't mutually exclusive. Maybe you could be both trapped and consumed and buried and laughing. Let me explain. Hi, I'm your host, and this is a story from the series. First, we tell the stories, and then we discuss them using a special code so that we can talk about certain elements without giving spoilers. If you're new here, join us for every story, every Wednesday and Friday at 8 a.m. Arizona time. Our story today comes from No Sleep Reddit user Crafty Ponda. There's a stretch of road that leads away from the town of Willow Creek, buried beneath moss-covered trees and forgotten memories. Locals never take that road after dark. They say it leads to a house that no longer exists, but every now and then, someone new drives through and finds it anyway. On a crisp October morning, Eleanor Reed arrived in Willow Creek, a history professor from Chicago. She had inherited a colonial-era house from a great-aunt she never met. The deed came wrapped in a brittle parchment, and with it, a short letter. The house is yours. But don't stay past the first frost. Eleanor thought it was superstition, old folks and their old fears. She drove past golden cornfields and rusted fences until the trees grew thick, swallowing the light. That's when she saw it. The house standing solemn at the end of a gravel path. White paint peeling, windows like blind eyes, porch sagging like tired shoulders. And yet it called to her. Eleanor approaches the house and we get our first description of it. We see it through her eyes and she seems mostly intrigued by it. It's not presented as being creepy right off the bat. She's drawn to it. Okay, so why do the locals fear it? Well, we'll have to ask them. Inside, the air was cold and still, as though time itself had paused. Dust blanketed every surface, but there were signs of movement. A rocking chair gently swaying, a door slowly creaking shut in a room upstairs. She dismissed it as the wind, but there was no wind. That first night, Eleanor lit the fireplace and unpacked a single suitcase. She finds old photographs in a drawer, women in long gowns with stern expressions. In one of them, a girl stood apart from the rest, her face blurred beyond recognition. The back read, Clara, 1891. As the fire crackled, she thought she heard whispering from the walls, faint and distant. She closed her eyes and told herself it was nothing. But in the morning, the fireplace was cold, and ash spelled out the word, stay. Okay, things are getting spooky now. This house is sentient, and it does not want her to leave. At least that's how I'm reading this. Remember that whole thing about not leaving after the first frost? Yeah, I'd probably do the same thing and ignore the warnings, but sometimes it's best to listen to the old folks. The days grew shorter. On the third night, she found claw marks on the inside of the bedroom door. Small, like a child's, but too deep for human hands. She ran her fingers over them, unsure whether to be afraid or fascinated. She started hearing footsteps at night, always above her, always pacing. When she climbed the stairs to confront whoever or whatever was there, the hallway would be silent, the rooms empty, the air heavier. She's starting to find physical evidence of something in the house, some kind of creature. Is it the house? Well, I think it's safe to assume it's part of the house. We've established that the house wants her to stay. Now we're learning it might be capable of harming her. This tells me that the house is not merely an entity within the walls, but rather the walls themselves. It's alive and breathing. It has agency. The townsfolk were no help. They smiled politely, but their eyes said something different. Fear. Bad. A woman at the gas station asked if she was staying in the White House by the trees. When Eleanor nodded, the woman's lips tightened. Then you've already heard them, the whispers. Eleanor laughed it off. But that night, she recorded the silence of the house with her phone. In the morning, she played it back and heard the unmistakable sound of a voice. A child's voice, repeating the same phrase. Help me. Now we start to see the influence the house is having on her. It's wearing her down. It's causing her to rationalize away what she's experiencing. So far, we've seen the house use indirect methods to try to keep her there. Little touches like rocking chairs and messages written in ash. But now we're seeing more direct attempts. Sounds from the floorboards are definitely deliberate. The house is trying to communicate with her. She tore up the rug in the sitting room. Beneath it, a loose floorboard. Under that, a shallow crawl space. And inside, wrapped in tattered lace, was a child's skeleton. She backed away, breathless, trembling. As she did, the house groaned. The walls seemed to tighten, and in the silence that followed, she heard the creak of the rocking chair once more, moving on its own, as if someone invisible had just taken a seat. This is the point where I normally remind you to like and subscribe, but I'm going to skip it this time. Because if I show up here and you haven't liked and subscribed, I will turn you into the woman in the rocking chair. Hear me now? Let's carry on. The temperature dropped that night. The frost came early. He tried to leave. Her keys were gone. The car was dead. The path to the road vanished. The house had changed. Rooms no longer led where they once had. Mirrors showed reflections that weren't hers. A window now opened into a brick wall. She screamed, but her voice was swallowed by the house, muffled, muted. She is losing her mind. The house is taking full control now. She's trapped and it's starting to consume her sanity. She thinks she's free, but really she's becoming another prisoner of the house. The next night, she woke to find the girl from the photo standing at the foot of her bed. Pale, translucent, her mouth sewn shut with thread. She pointed toward the attic. Eleanor climbed the stairs, flashlight flickering. The attic door was nailed shut from the outside. With trembling hands, she pried it open. Inside were dozens of dolls, all arranged in a circle, all facing an empty cradle. In the center, a leather-bound diary. It belonged to Clara. The entries were short, desperate, childlike. She said I was wicked. She made me sleep in the crawl space. I want to go home, but I am the home now. The house didn't want her to leave because it wanted her to stay forever. But it didn't want her to leave before that, because it needed her to finish the ritual. Now that she's completely alone, it can fully consume her. It doesn't need to hide anymore. It can reveal itself. The whispering grew louder. It wasn't just Clara. There were so many others. It's all buried in the walls, under the floors, behind sealed doors. Victims of a woman who called herself Mother, a religious zealot who believed in purification through suffering. She had used the house as a vessel. Now the house was her. Eleanor tried to burn it. She lit every match she had. Flames danced, but the fire would not spread. The house didn't burn. Instead, it fed on the flame, grew brighter, stronger, and Eleanor weaker. It's a parasite, living off her energy, growing stronger the more she tries to fight it. She thinks fire will stop it, but it only makes the house hungrier. The final entry in her notebook was written in trembling ink. I think I understand now. The house doesn't trap you. It becomes you, thought by thought. I don't know how long I've been here, but I can feel her inside me when the next person arrives. And that's the end of our story? Join me after the credits for my thoughts on this terrifying tale. Do you think the house consumed Eleanor's consciousness? Or did it take over her body and preserve her mind in the same way it did Clara? Let me know in a comment. Why do you think the house waited so long to reveal itself? I think it was waiting for her to complete the ritual. It needed her to uncover Clara's story. But once she did, it could finally move on to the next step. How does the idea of a sentient house that consumes and preserves its victims make you feel? I love it. But if you're wondering, nope, I don't plan on inheriting any houses anytime soon. Thanks to everyone who watches these videos. I'll see you in the next one.